Good evening, and welcome to the Parent Impact, presented by the National Parents Union. I'm your host, Tafshier Cosby, and thank you for joining us tonight. You could have been anywhere surfing the net, but you are here with us to welcome our great guests and to hear our conversation. So we thank you for coming by to the Parent Impact tonight. So, as usual, we're going to start with a few updates from Newark and then from the state of New Jersey. But first, I want to congratulate Reverend Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff from Georgia, two of the newest Georgia senators. Woo! The last time we were together, they had not been elected. There was a runoff. So, we congratulate those two winners for the state of Georgia. Georgia did your thing. We need you guys to come to other states and make sure that we all know what you did. What's the secret sauce? What's the magic? We know it was Stacy and crew, but we all need to make sure that we're doing exactly what Georgia did to make sure that we are voting in the elected officials who have our best interests at heart and are going to be making laws and policies for our families and our Black and brown families. So congratulations to those newest state senators in Georgia, making changes. So many years, Georgia, you guys need that. I said I was actually going to go and visit some of my family that's in Georgia in Valdosta. So y'all might actually get a visit from me this year because y'all might. So updates from Newark, New Jersey. So Newark Public Schools will remain shuttered through April as the coronavirus continues to surge. Unfortunately, in the city of Newark, we are having more and more cases every day. Even though we are continuing to mask up, please make sure you mask up, Newark. Please make sure you're washing your hands and being careful. So Newark Public Schools will remain closed until at least April. Students will return to the classroom beginning April the 12th, 2021. Those for families who want their students to actually go back into the classroom. Everyone else will remain remote. So if you have not returned your survey, Newark Public School families, please return your survey. Let the school know what your preference is as a family. Make sure you get that in so they know which way your child is going to be educated after April the 12th. Also, non-instructional employees are going to return this week, and district employees are also going to return this week. So in March, this marks a year since the schools have been closed, since students have been remote learning. It has been difficult. It has been tough. There have been a lot of conversations regarding measuring the learning loss for the children in the state, measuring their social and emotional well-being. So we're going to continue to have those conversations throughout the year right here on the Parent Impact. We're going to talk to lawmakers, we're going to talk to parents and students about what the impact of the schools being closed for a year means on our students right here in New Jersey. So meals will continue to be distributed. The city is going to also reopen the public sites for students who are taking online classes with supervision. So that is also going to continue, which is something that we need to happen in our city. So state of New Jersey, Governor Phil Murphy on Monday stated that the class of 2021, the seniors, will not require to pass any tests to graduate. And I know that's something we've been working on with NEED. Not having any tests for the students this year, it's just too much. They've already been through a lot. But the class of 2021 will not be required to take the test to be able to graduate, which is great. They will have to submit the rest of the requirements, making sure that they're passing all their classes and making sure that they are coming to school and meeting the attendance requirements, but they will not have to pass the test. Even though I think for this particular test, I think the majority of our students in New Jersey actually pass it before they even get to senior year. From the data that I've seen, most of them pass it because it's one test they have to pass either in freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior year. Most of them actually passed it before they actually get to senior year. But the good thing is they don't have to, if they didn't pass it in freshman, sophomore, junior year, they won't have to worry about passing it in senior year. And they'll be able to move forward and do their college thing and graduate, which is great. Teachers will also not be rated on students' academic growth. And I think that's great for teachers, that they will not be graded on that, right? There's a lot going on with students. Students are trying to be 100% right now. They are trying to do the best that they can, and teachers are as well. So I think that's a lot of pressure off of the teachers to have their to be rated on the students' academic growth, especially when we still have a digital divide in the state of New Jersey. It has the gap has shortened, but we still do have a digital divide. There are still students who do not have access to technology or access to the proper broadband and things like that. So I think it's only right that we take that pressure off of the teachers to be graded based on how their students are doing. And again, we're going to continue to have these conversations about what learning loss looks like for our students, what their social and emotional health looks like, not just for the students, but for the families, for the teachers, for just everyone. We are all continuing to deal with this pandemic. So we need to continue to have these conversations about what's happening in our state of New Jersey. So we have two fantastic guests tonight. It's January. We were going to go with a conversation, the January conversations, new year, new you. And we are going to move forward with that for the rest of the month of January. We're going to have conversations about vision boarding and things, ways that, you can start this January, making sure that you start the year off right, making sure that you're looking inward and doing the best that you can for yourself. Although I do feel like we actually had those conversations last month. We had a couple of great authors from Newark and from the state of New Jersey. Siobhan Anderson we had on, Latrice Smith we had on, and they were talking about ways that you can, pull yourself together, journaling, and ways that you can start January off great. But we are going to continue those. But we had to have this conversation tonight, right? Everything that happened at our state capitol last Wednesday, I wanted to have this conversation with a few of our stakeholders, our community stakeholders, and really talk about advocacy versus insurrection, right? What does that mean? What does it look like? So I'm going to bring my two guests on right now so we can really dive into this conversation. And I knew it. I knew my house phone was going to ring. I knew it every time. Who's it calling me? Essex County. Joey D. Don't call me at 6 o'clock at night when I'm on my show. So I'm going to bring my two guests in. And they're laughing behind the scenes because they know Joey D. They're from Essex County. They know. So I'm going to bring my two guests in so we can start this conversation. So I'm going to bring in Tommy Luna, who is my co-chair at Need. Hey, Tommy.
Hey, how are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And Councilwoman Rashana Cosby from Fifth Ward in Linden. Hey.
Hey, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you guys for being here tonight. I know we got a lot to talk about because what happened at the Capitol was a hot mess. And I just wanted to read the two definitions of what our topic is going to be tonight, right? Advocacy versus insurgency. So the definition of advocacy is public support for or recommendation of a particular cause or policy, right? Because some people were saying like, oh, they were just advocates advocating for what they wanted and advocating for, Trump to be president again. But the definition of insurrection instead of insurgency, is a violent uprising against an authority or government, right? Those are two different things. What those people were doing was not advocating. They were, in an insurrection. They were trying to overthrow our government. So I just wanted to see what you guys thought about the actions, initially, what the actions were at the state capitol. So Tommy, we'll start with you, and then Rashana will go with you.
Yeah, thank you. And again, thank you for Parent Impact for having me on, and National Parents Union for having this forum and this space, which I think is absolutely vital. And hearing like Siobhan and Latrice's name before this, I was like, we got some great people at this state. We got some great people in this city. I'm excited to share space. And in terms of this past week with the Capitol, and I'm glad that you brought up the definitions, because I think, by definition, those are the what's, like what is advocacy, right? It is that cause, it is that supported recommendation of particular cause or policy versus active result or uprising. What I think is also important in those aspects is the why and the how, right? Like when I think about advocates, and this is my own personal definition, that I got from a wonderful interview that I had with Chris Stewart, who I know is a friend of the show and a friend of Parents Everywhere. He talks about advocates being able to take a situation over the finish line, right? Like there's a lot of activists that are like, throwing the rock, we want this is what should happen, etc. And what separates an activist from an advocate are those folks that are able to take that issue over the finish line. right? What we know about the insurgency, and I think that's a great word from last week, is like, yeah, they had a cause, and guess what? They weren't able to take it over the finish line. Like, they made a whole butt of themselves. I'm trying not to cuss. And like, at the end of the day, they didn't win anything. They just looked foolish. They looked stupid. Some guy wearing horns and a hat, and I'm just like, cool. This is why you lost, right? This is why you're not taken seriously. This is why you have to go to this level to be taken seriously. It's sad, but that is where I think they really miss the target in so many ways, for the stuff that they did. Now, there are some other layers to everything, right? When it comes to people of color, when it comes to the way that law enforcement responded. But I think just to your question, right? The insurgency that we saw was an abysmal failure, because of the fact that nothing was changed. Joseph R. Biden is our president. Kamala Harris is our vice president. They didn't change the outcourse of anything. They just made a mess. They cost people their lives, and I believe all of them should be held accountable and then some. Councilwoman, what are you thinking there?
So I wasn't surprised at all, first of all, by the behavior. What did surprise me is that on camera, police officers were caught encouraging the behavior, shooing the people in through the barricades and taking photographs and whatnot. So the president set this up. And, when you listen to his words of that morning and his sons and, his lawyer and all like that, this is what they wanted. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, there was no win for them anyway. There was no way they could have won. There was no win. And I thought it was comical at best to watch some of the Republicans walk back their 4 years of support because of the violence. Let me tell you something. There's been violence for the past 4 years,
Absolutely.
And disappointing was the fact that, and I'm not, I'm going to blame whoever the local government was. You should have had more police, because they've been talking about this on Twitter for weeks.
Exactly.
So you can't tell me that you didn't expect, how the super spread events that he's been having, over the course of the campaign, folks show up. And I think that they show up just to be seen on TV. Legit.
Probably. Yeah.
No, seriously, because that if Trump is doing something, there's going to be a camera. And it was disgusting, period. But there was no win for them one way or the other. So I just felt like they came to make that spectacle, and it cost a lot of money. And my heart goes out to the folks who lost their lives. It's disgusting.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And there was the hashtag that were going around, hashtag if they were black, right? We saw what happened at the Black Lives Matter movement when they were down there, right? We saw what happened at peaceful protests across the country, and then we now have stories about some of these people actually coming to local state houses, right? Doing the same thing. But we saw it happen before it happened at the Capitol, right? There was a local state house that they actually went to. That was a test. Right, that was a test. They wanted to see if they could. Once nothing happened. Then, right, there was no kind of like backlash. They're like, okay, well, let's head to the Capitol. It was definitely a call from the president himself, soon to be ex-president. I don't even want to put president on his name anymore. Soon to be ex-president, right? About calling out his people and having them come and do what they did. But I mean, it's law and order, but that same law and order backfires on the people who did that, because now they're being arrested. Although I'm not a fan of them calling now for them to be arrested. Why weren't they arrested when they were there? Why were you allowed to leave that building, right? There has to be some place in the Capitol where you can hold people so they can't leave, right? I just thought it was horrible. I thought it was a terrible day for the United States. I thought that people around the world were watching us, and they're watching democracy fall to pieces. And it's all because of the who we have in office. It's all because of the leader that's in office, right? So how do we move forward with having some bipartisanship when it comes to the federal elected officials? we knew what it looked like before this happened, and now they're walking it back. Now they're saying, oh, now we want to say go ahead. We want to say make sure that we're pushing through the elections, and it was a good election and all those things. But how do we really move past this now? Federally.
I feel like, so here's the thing. People need to stop identifying solely with their party of choice. You know what I mean? Because even here in New Jersey, there are Republicans who have policies that I agree with. So engage those Republicans, not just when there's an issue that you're passionate about, but on a regular basis. You see, they want to be, communicated with, and they want to be important, of course, but it should be an ongoing dialogue, not just when there's a matter that you want them to support. Because 9 out of 10 times, well, now we're going to see how it works in the Senate and Congress, but 9 out of 10 times, Republicans didn't care to talk to you Democrats because they had a majority. So, but we should stop identifying solely with our party and look at our interests. No, seriously, and say, okay, Republican X, Y, and Z, let me make that call and make it a regular dialogue. That's what the politicians needs to really be doing down in Washington.
Yeah. Tommy, I agree with that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. And I also like to add to that, I think a lot of that can come with finding the things that actually unite us as folks. Like to your point, there are Republicans that I have worked with in the past for various advocacy issues, because there is a lot of things that we can agree on, right? There are obviously very central issues to folks on either side of the political spectrum that are philosophical in nature, and it takes a lot to get there, but those are at the extreme ends. There's a lot in the middle that I think people can really coalesce around and rally around. And if we focus just on those issues, and I'm going to get to this second part in a second, without muddling it up, I think there's a lot that can be done together rather than apart. And the muddied up piece that I just wanted to mention really quick is that I think one of the issues that happens for good causes, right? I think 2 years ago in the House, there was some good legislation kind of working up its way to a committee that talked about some term limits, that talked about some other things. But what happened is people started tacking in all these amendments in the hopes that it would die. And I think my thing is that if we have very strict rules on, like, if this is the issue, amendments can't be posted that aren't germane to it, so that it doesn't muddy up the process, we can avoid some of the larger battles that shouldn't even be battles because people wanted to play politics or play games with the actual central idea. There's a lot of ideas that unite us, and until the rules allow us to actually talk about those things versus everything else, we're going to get stuck in the same cycle that we have all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Do you think we're headed for civil war? Like, do you guys think that and what it's 2020, 2021. What would a civil war look like, right, in the United States? I mean, I think 75 million people voted for Trump, right? So I think that we've already started, over the last 4 years to divide ourselves as a country. But like, what would the Civil War look like? I mean, I know we probably don't want to think about it, but like, what would that look like? A civil war in 2021 with all the people who have been like mixed in with each other and families mixed in, and what would that even look like in the world?
Versus the heroes, probably. I mean, but not just, how many people voted for Trump the first time, but they didn't vote for him, a lot of them this time, because they realized who he was in essence. And he was, whatever, the businessman. People voted for him because he had so many different platforms, right? So he would go to this section of the country and give them what they wanted to hear and blah, 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 and didn't deliver on much of anything except for hate. But civil war would look like me making sure that I was prepared with my protective equipment, and protecting my household.
Second Amendment equipment.
Yeah, I think it would be really short. Like when I hear like some folks of like, oh, I'm gonna get my gun because the government's gonna come get me. I'm like, okay, they have jets. Your shotgun is not gonna be really effective. I don't know how to say this. But like, a piece of me, and this goes to a point that y'all had brought up earlier of like, had the nation seen the same amount of tear gas, rubber bullets, baton beatings, bullets in general that against that group of nationalists, and I use that word very, very strategically. Those were
Yeah.
nationalists. Those were not
Yeah.
patriots. Those were nationalists. If we were to see the same use of force that our communities have seen when we have rallied, that we saw when Trump cleared the way to hold up a Bible in front of a church, if we had seen that same use of force, I don't believe there would be a notion that this is some, like this nationalist insurrection is something scary. It would have never gotten to that level. I think
Right.
that's the part that really had my blood boiling. Because had it been Newark out there, had it been our friends and our neighbors out there, there would have been more than 55 arrests. There would have
Absolutely.
been more than 5 people dead, right? That is the part that really got me. And I think that when people are like, yeah, we'll do it again because there's only 5 people that died, I was like, yeah, that's because they don't punish y'all. They don't kill y'all at the same rates as they kill us. And
Exactly.
that is the part that made my blood boil more than anything when I saw everything that went down on Monday. That was the part. I canceled all the meetings that I had. I was like, I can't, like my mind is like boiling right now because we are not treated the same.
Yeah.
We saw
Exactly.
it.
Right. And I think it's also about getting to the, are we ever going to get to like the root cause, in this country? We know the root cause, right? We know the cause, but it's like we keep dancing around it. We dance around it. We don't really have these conversations with each other. And it's really like tearing our country to pieces. A lot of times, last week, a lot of people were like, oh, I'm an American, but quite honestly, I was embarrassed to be an American last week. Like it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing for the world to see that. It was embarrassing for us to go through that. Um, and then how do we, like I said, how do we rebuild? How do we now move forward? We still have people in this country who believe that Trump won, who are going to continue to believe that Trump won, right? And these people are in our communities. They are our police officers. They are our elected officials. How do we as a community now organize and make sure that we're getting the things that we need when we may continue to be blocked at every possible turn when we're trying to just do good for our community? And that's part of like my pause, right? I mean, I know what's been happening. I know these people have already been embedded into our systems, but my pause is like, now what is going to be the fallout? What is going to be the continued fallout from these people feeling like they've been wronged? They've been wronged in our community. I mean, is it going to be more people locked up? Is it going to be more people who don't get what they need for the community? Is it going to be financial support stopped, right? Is it going to be money actually stopped for certain states where they didn't win? That's like the biggest thing that I'm thinking about now. And as much as we need even more money to come to these states, right? We're still in a pandemic, so it's still a lot going on. So we need to make sure that our states are fully funded and get what they need. And there's like no backlash or retaliation that comes from this. So like I said, 75 million people in this country voted for Trump. How do we, in New Jersey specifically, how do we talked about not making sure that we're not voting for a particular party, but in New Jersey this year, we have all of our state, and Rashana smiles at that because like, this is her favorite conversation. And she's like, yeah, this is all of them now. They are going up for re-election this year. So remember, New Jersey, everybody's going up for re-election. So if the world was open,
Everybody.
a lot of babies being kissed, right? A lot of chicken dinners to be had since we're not open, right? Since the world is not open, how do we now organize families around getting the information out about like who's running, who's up for election in this virtual world? Like, how do we do that now?
Hold on, though. Let me just clarify something you just said. You know that this governor has exempted political gatherings from his restrictions, right?
I did not know
Yeah.
that. That's good to
Yes,
know.
that's what this governor has done.
Interesting.
So you can build your event or your activity as a politricking event and have folks show up and get the information because he knows that people, everybody's not virtual and blah, blah, blah. And he expects to be running around kissing babies and shaking hands, but he can't get that from everybody. But anyway, so in New Jersey, every seat is up, every single one, and the senators only get 2 years this time because we're coming off of the census. So this is very important. Find out who they are. Vote your interest. You know, hi Jamila.
Yeah. Hey Jamila. Hey girl. Hey.
Hey.
Good to know.
But wait a minute. Some of these people who voted for Trump and who still believe him are our sons and daughters. But no. So we have to just give them the real information. And so it's hard when you have young people and folks who don't normally participate in government, and then they get the Fox News, highlights. And when I watch Fox News now, still just to see what the comparison is from the straight media, which I feel like, everybody's biased. It's not like you can watch Channel 13 anymore and, just get the basic information. So take from it what you will and then check the facts. That's what's the most important thing, checking the facts. And I don't know, for me, I just feel like the people who support Trump are going to always support, whatever his ideals were, whether he was able to deliver them or not. Similarly, people in New Jersey who voted for Phil Murphy under the guise that he was going to make a fairer, stronger New Jersey. I think that was his slogan. And his slogan also had the same colors as "Got Junk." So, that's just that. We didn't get everything that we were promised, from this governor. And then you got bills, Tommy, like you said, that were dying in committee. You have, I guess, ACR, I think it's like 130 or something like that for the term limits. That's not even on the list in committee this year. I looked it up because that's important to me. And I think but here's the thing. It would be just like the legal marijuana, which is a referendum. That's what they proposed, to put it on the ballot, to create a 10-year maximum. And I say, why not? Darn it, why not? You rushed marijuana on us and it's still not legal, you know?
Yeah.
So
very true. Yeah. And it was supposed to be in January, right?
Republican, folks, because they sponsored it anyway. So, and I support it.
And it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be legal. Yep. Latrice, please tell me that's not true. Some people from Newark participated. I hope not. And I hope they don't try it at New Jersey State House. The state police director already said, don't try it in New Jersey.
Like New Jersey, not the state, y'all.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it in New Jersey. Don't come to State House acting crazy.
No.
Yeah, but you see that the counties in South Jersey that was super red this year.
Yeah, but they better not try it at the State House. So this is New Jersey. Like, don't try it. Yeah, Jamila, our skin is seen as a weapon and threat, even armed against the Capitol. White lives are not seen as a threat, and I value more. This is America. Yeah, very true. Very true. And we have all experienced that as Black and brown people in our communities. It's our neighbors, families, friends, teachers. Yep. Very true. Very, very true. So what do you think, Tommy? How do we continue to organize around what's happening in New Jersey as far as everybody being up for election? And with how do we continue to hold our lawmakers accountable for being bipartisan in New Jersey?
Word. I think 3 ways. I think one is forums just like this and organizations that work with parents and families and students, letting folks know and educating folks about the fact that, yes, everything is up for election this year. Here's where here are the people that are going to be on the ballot. And like, this is where you can find information. I think that's one, just like information overload, right? I don't believe when it comes to informing people about their decision makers that there's such thing as over communication. So I would love to see that happen. I think from our county levels, really being intentional about sending out maybe, I don't know the costs associated with, but at least online at various platforms of like, what is the ballot going to look like? Who is on the ballot? So that people can get an earlier sense of what this is going to look like when they are called to vote. Because I know that question comes up over and over and over again. When I was district leader in the Central Ward, we had a huge call and, folks were really confused about the ballot. And that is always going to happen. I also think, our counties can be a little bit more proactive in fielding those questions, anticipating those questions, and then resolving them as well. And I think the last piece is just like, to the accountability piece is like, as groups form and organizations continue to build, bringing in those people that are on the ballot and having them talk with folks and hearing what their positions are and what their issues are. I tend to believe, and this might get me a little bit in trouble, that it's like, it is difficult to beat the ballot structure, which we call the line. It can be done. Hello. It can be done. Yes, it can. It is difficult, and that presents its own piece. But if you have that capacity of people to really, really challenge that line and challenge who's on it and build for you, you can hold any elected official accountable by their office. And I think that is one of the things that people around the country do extremely well, and something that we can learn from here. Because, you know, true or not, right, at least in Newark, there's a lot of angst about, you know, seeing some of the same faces and some of the same people and what did they do. And I think those are valid questions. I think at the end of the day, for anybody who is trying to like start their own candidacy, you got to have the people and you got to have the strategy. And I think all of those go hand in hand with being really well versed in our civics and really well, knowledgeable to be an activist and an advocate in our city to make sure that we're getting the things that we want.
Yeah.
I agree. And also too, like, so my experience has been, it's a popularity contest more often than not. Who have you seen? Who's endorsing whom? You know, whatever. People could care less about the words coming out of your mouth. And I can tell you honestly, our election here in my city, in the 4th Ward, there was a really, you know, dedicated individual who grew up in Linden, and he was running, and he did not win because he was running against the machine. And you have people in the background asking him to hand out literature for their Board of Ed candidates, but nobody's walking around. Where are these people? You know, when he's out here making sure he gets the word out, trying to get elected. But ultimately, you know, the incumbent won because of the line structure, of course. And there's nothing remotely fantastic or remarkable about his first 3 years on council. And I'm saying that in all honesty. And as a, you know, as a council member, I'm disappointed because I sit there with other folks who really have the best interest of their neighborhoods, right? But besides that, just like a district in the Senate and the Assembly, you have to look out for everyone when you vote, right? So in this I'm in Legislative District 22. We actually have parts of Middlesex County. There are brown people there, and they're Asian brown people, right? Mm-hmm. So they have similar interests to what my interests are as an American Negro. And then we have other folks who don't share that, but don't send them to Trenton then. You know what I mean? Like, find out what these people's intentions are, because when you look at, and I want to encourage everybody to just start looking, or at least listening to some of the meetings now that they're so accessible. See how your folks are voting. You would be surprised. I said it in my book, Plantation Politics. It only took me 8 years to recognize that people who we keep supporting because of familiarity or because of our party, they're voting against us. Yeah. We just didn't know it. So now it's time for us to open our eyes and make sure that our interests are met. Like, there's a bill, and it was, I was laughing at it. It says that the state would not require municipalities to create areas of housing, you know, for any type of class of people. Insofar as the Coalition on Affordable Housing has gone away, these people in Trenton don't care. They don't want affordable housing one way or the other, right? Because it doesn't affect them.
Yeah.
But what about the people it does affect? So where's everybody going to live? If you keep building in my city, there's a 500.
They all live in the same city. They all come to Newark. They all send their money to Newark. That's, I mean, and not that Newark doesn't need it. Not that we don't need it, but a lot of the cities around the towns, they send it here.
We don't do COA anymore. We used to get Livingston's money. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is, what happens to these people who can't afford to live in these, you know, in Shaq's building?
Yeah.
Right? What happens to those who can't live in whatever Queen Latifah is proposing? No offense, I love them both. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. But that's why we have to
voting for it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we have to pay attention. Back to
Mhm.
the Capitol. Do you feel like our lawmakers, our state lawmakers, should hold like town hall conversations with constituents about what happened, or about what they
For
think
what?
is going to happen moving forward?
No, because all they're going to do right now is campaign.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
and not
everybody
really
has
talk
made a
about
statement.
moving.
Most of them have made statements.
Hmm.
If they're going to talk about anything, they should proactively speak about our state.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, and the laws that they're going to make pertaining to the state of New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
how
Yeah,
they're
when
going to
you first
protect
started
us
your
from
question at town,
similar, insurrection.
yeah. Go ahead,
oh,
Tommy.
when you had first started your question about town halls, like when I heard that, I was like, yes, they should. Just to your points earlier of like getting an idea of where people are and what people need, and being a part of the conversation of their districts and their areas throughout the entire district, throughout the entire area. About the Capitol itself, I personally, like, I really do appreciate my legislators. I could care less. If they were like talking about what happened, I was like, okay, like, but what are you gonna do about this? And yeah, I think town halls. I think people should demand them. Like, hey, anybody running for office, you need to be here at this time on this Zoom link with all these people. We'll monitor the chat and send you questions, but like, you need to be here.
Yeah.
And make that a thing for and I think if multiple organizations partner together, that could be a very real reality that we could see and could set the standard about what we expect out of our people that we send to train.
Yeah, I agree.
That's
For
a good
coalition
idea.
building, right?
But here's the
Like
thing.
working
So
working together for coalitions, like right, building coalitions together throughout the state, where we are keeping these elected officials accountable. We're holding them accountable to do the things that they said they were going to do. I'm all for that, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody want to be in coalition with me? Let me know.
Hey.
I'll definitely, I'll do whatever I can, but I want you to know that I reached out to my senator before the November general election. I reached out to my county sheriff. I reached out to a number of people who were, sponsoring this. None of them wanted to talk about it before the vote. No one. They'll talk about it after it was approved, because here's the thing. My intention was to actually get the facts on the table for the folks
Right.
who were going to vote. Nobody was
Right.
able to participate before the vote. So like I said, they're going to be campaigning this year. So most of them are going to show up, and tell us what we want to hear. But then we got to make sure that they do what they say.
Yeah, absolutely. And hold them accountable to do what they said they were going to do. I didn't really want to talk too long tonight, right? We just really wanted to talk about like advocacy versus insurrection, what happened at the Capitol, to just remind people that New Jersey, all the seats are up for election this year. So get involved, right? Get organized, grab some people, make sure that we know how we're voting. If we're still going to be voting by mail, make sure you know that. For Newark, we have a school board election coming up in April, which we're going to be starting to gear up for now.
Right.
It's like it's January, but like we really need to be thinking about who's going to represent us. I know for myself, I've been doing a lot of research on New Jersey first, right? People in New Jersey, African Americans in New Jersey who are notable first. And there are a lot of people in New Jersey who are literally the first African American or Negro person, on their school board. West Orange had the very first African American council person. And I was in shock. In 2020, the very first African American councilwoman in West Orange. In Montville, the first African American school board, the first woman to actually get on the school board. I had a list somewhere. I don't put it somewhere, but like I was just shocked. As we move to February, right, which is Black History Month. Let's start talking about current history, right? People who are still making history in New Jersey as African Americans, as Black and brown people who are being elected for the very first time. I was just shocked to find out that, so many people are being elected for the very first time in New Jersey as African Americans. You think New Jersey is a progressive state, you think, oh, we have, things happening here. We have a lot of African Americans in power here. But to hear that this is happening for the very first time, it's just very shocking.
Mhm.
So I think that people should absolutely make sure that they are focused and paying attention to what's going on in our communities. So what's some words of advice you can give some of our viewers before we leave here about what they need to do for this upcoming year, for the 2021, when everybody is running for election? What are some of the things that you think they need to be doing to get more engaged and more involved? I'll start with you, Rashana.
Oh, okay. I would encourage everybody to just get the information about the candidates, and everybody does not deserve your vote. I'm going to say to you that line voting is faux pas, and I discourage it 100%. It is, because I am a registered Democrat. However, I will vote my interest. And if that means for me not going to the general election, I'm sorry, the primary election in June and picking everybody on that line, that's what that means for me. You guys don't primary, but you do have district leaders coming up in June. So this year, know who's who, and know what their function is going to be, and how, if you vote for them, will it benefit you and your family and your neighborhood. Get the information, and don't be a blind voter. Don't do that blind allegiance. I'm a Democrat. Because here's the thing. If you see someone's name in June and you support them, but then what if there's another candidate who comes up in November who's better for your neighborhood?
Right.
Now see, that's what I don't like. They force you to identify in November as an independent, although you might be registered as a Democrat. So take every election seriously and know who the candidates are.
Yeah. Good advice.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Tommy?
Yeah. I think for me, just three things is that one, believe that you deserve leaders who have your interests at heart, that you can make a difference in that outcome. Believe that. And also, like, I've also found in just organizing with folks, they're like, oh, I'm not involved with politics. Every decision you make is political. Where you spend your money, how you spend your money, especially where you decide to live, like, know that it is a game that is dependent on you believing that you're not involved in it. And like, the more that people can be involved in the actual process through education, through advocacy, right, I think the better off we're going to be overall. And the second, for those that are really interested in, changing some of the things that happen in Trenton, some of the policies, and advocating, not insurging, the things that are happening at the Capitol and in Trenton, is like being very, very crystal clear what you want. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of good things die because they're like, oh, we need free this. And they're like, okay, so what do you mean by that? Don't let it cost any, like, it's not clear, right? I was just like, be really, really clear. If you can put it to paper, even better. And then also, like, just know, and this is my bias, that with people comes power. Like, if you have enough people believing the same thing, most elected officials that I've been across are really impressed when you can show 10 people up. But if you can show 50, if you can show 100, that is some power. And the more that you believe in that, I think the better off we're going to be, because it's going to produce some things that I know are going to make this state, our city, our country a lot better than it currently is.
I agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said, Tommy. Thank you so much.
Wait, one more piece of advice, Kim, to tag on to what Tommy said. Run at the end of the day. Run.
Run for office. You don't like the person in there, then if you think you can make a change and make a difference, then run for office. We have a lot of district seats available in the city of Newark. Just so everyone knows, a lot of district leader seats that are available, right? There needs to be a man and a woman for each district. Run for those offices. If you feel like you can, you have a voice and you want to make a difference and you want to make a change, run for office. I totally agree. And if you want to learn more about organizing, you can check out NEED, Newark for Educational Equity and Diversity. Check us out on Facebook. Anybody, even if you don't live in New Jersey, right? We talk about We're focused on like organizing for Newark, but the skill set that we give to families at our brunch and builds on Saturdays, once a month, they are for anybody. Anybody can learn how to organize. Anybody can learn how to get people together to really talk about the issues, to break down the issues, and really figure out how do you attack the issues as a community, right? How do you attack the issues as a coalition? So check out Need on Facebook. Tommy and I are co-chairs of that organization. We work with some fantastic people. Shout out to all our Need, our RST. Shout out to everyone who comes to our Brunch and Build. We appreciate you guys. And I appreciate you guys coming on today. I know we talked about a lot of things today. I really just wanted to touch on, that advocacy versus insurgency. What does that mean? What does it look like? Getting those real definitions out there, and to let people know that what happened in the Capitol was not advocacy, right? But you can do advocacy in your community. It only takes one person to get it started. You can work with other people. You can grab some people in your community. You can talk about the issues. You can figure out ways to solve the problems that are happening in your community. If there are fantastic organizations all over the place that can help you. If you want to do it nationally, you can join the National Parents Union. It's open. We're available. You can join us. Here's the link for membership. Join us nationally. We are the authentic voice of parents across the nation, working to make sure that the parents in our community and our students and children have what they need. Everything we do is for our children. So thank you guys so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Like I said, we deviated from the new year, new you, kind of conversation. But I feel like this conversation needed to be had. I'm so glad that you guys were on as my guest tonight, that we can really, get to the bottom of what happened in the Capitol. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. I'm still a little afraid. They have like 15,000 troops coming down to DC. And I'm still a little afraid, for what's going to happen. So anybody who's in DC or is going down to DC, please be safe. Please be safe down there, because we just don't know what's going to happen. If to our lawmakers that are there, be safe. But we are ushering in a new era, a new day, right? A new president, vice president that really looks like the America that we all want to live in and we all want to be a part of. So let's just make sure that everybody is being safe. So thank you guys. Thank you for your words of wisdom and advice for our audience. And I will see you guys soon.
Thank you for having us
tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Tommy, we'll see you soon. Bring your butt back.
Stop putting them on blast. Sheesh.
We'll see you guys soon. Thank you again, everybody. This was another great episode of The Parent Impact. We'll be back this month, right, where we're talking about new year, new you, and opportunities for families to really get to the bottom of how they can become new this year, things that they can do, like vision boarding and energy boards and things like that. I just really wanted to take this time to have this conversation about what happened Wednesday. It happened past when we do the show, so I wanted to have a forum and an opportunity to talk about it. I'm glad that we had Councilwoman Cosby and Tommy Luna on to talk about it. So if you would like to be a guest on The Parent Impact, please hit me up. It's Tafshier at T Cosby at theparentimpact.org. Check us out on Facebook at The Parent Impact, Twitter, parent_impact. We are looking for more authentic parent voices throughout the state, in the city of Newark. Please join us on the show. If you want to come on the show, if you have something that you like to talk about or something that you like to share, again, these are authentic parent voices, right? This is our lived experience as parents, right? This is literally my lived experience as a parent. Things that I've gone through, things that I'm fascinated by, things that affect me as a community member here in the city of Newark. We would love to have more of your voices here on this platform. This platform is for you. It's an opportunity to raise your voices, to say the things that you need to say, to organize. So please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next week, Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks.